2020's NBA playoffs are rumored to be some of the best. But where do these rumors come from? Watch today's video and you'll find out everything you need to know about it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. A return to the NBA season is shifting ever so slightly to becoming a reality, with Orlando's Disney World appearing to be the venue of choice for the league to resume the 2019 and 2020 season. And while there are some who will surely slap an asterisk over which team emerges as an NBA champion this year, that's far from how the next NBA champion should be viewed in the pantheon of previous title winners. When you look at the journey whichever team hoists the Larry O'Brien Trophy will have had to go through, it will be the kind of postseason gauntlet that no team has ever had to endure. And that makes the next NBA champion able to have overcome the stop-and-start season due to the COVID-19 global pandemic, worthy of being in the conversation for having one of the greatest seasons ever. The whole notion of any NBA champion being less than worthy of the title is crazy. In 2015, Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors won their first of 3 NBA titles within a 4-year window, and their opponent's starting point guard missed some or most games in each of their playoff series that year. But that team and subsequent Warriors squads are still regarded, as they should be, as elite champions. Team health is not as big an issue. The one thing that teams worry the most about going into the playoffs, health, won't be anywhere close to being as big a factor as it has in past years. The global pandemic put the brakes on the NBA season and sports in general, providing a number of NBA players with various bumps and bruises plenty of time to heal up and be as close to being fit as possible for a lengthy postseason. Of course, there will be a rust for all players to shake off, and some players won't be in nearly as good a condition to start the reboot to the season as they would be if the season had gone on without interruption. But the injuries that teams are often trying to manage and navigate around at the end of the season won't be there because of the extended time without games and practices. For the Celtics, the idea that you can essentially stay where you are in the standings, get Kemba Walker more than 2 months of rest with no games, and practice while potentially playing a handful of games prior to the postseason gives Boston a great shot at making a deep playoff run. And unfortunately for the Celtics, the same can be said for just about every other team in the postseason picture. So that means regardless of what your playoff seeding will be, regardless of how healthy your team as a whole will be, your opponent will also be close to being at their peak physically, which means every series, more likely than not, will be harder to win than previous years. And for those who point to how teams can still be impacted by players getting hurt during the ramp-up to the playoffs, the risk of that happening in games prior to this postseason becomes much smaller when you're talking about a handful of potential regular season games leading up to this year's playoffs versus the slate of 60-plus games they've already played. Given the option of having kept playing while navigating rest in between games and practices, or having an extended layoff where conditioning and rust are bigger concerns than the actual wear and tear on the body, the former is the preferred option for any team with legit visions of winning a championship.
The NBA going to do its best to try to get back on the court, complete the playoffs, so we are going to do our best to try to pick who's going to win those playoffs. I got Ryan.
Excellent three-point shooter, kind of regressed this year. I think he was down to around 34% from deep, but keeps defenses on.
Are you included with everyone?
I sure am. I mean, you're talking the team with the best record in the NBA when we shut down. You got a range. I don't see how any team can stop them. If there is a team in the East that might surprise Milwaukee, I'm going to take though on Chris Middleton. You've got Brook Lopez, who is just a perfect system fit, I would say. He gives them rim protection. Not a great rebounder from the center spot, but honest and gives them that court spreading that you need to allow Giannis the driving lanes. I mean, that's where he lives, is in the restricted area, getting to the rim. So
no home court advantage. The top teams spent all season working towards positioning themselves to host a Game 7 in front of their fans if a series came down to that. But with all 16 teams likely playing games at one neutral site, the home court edge no longer exists. The playoffs become more like an expanded NCAA tournament filled with best-of series instead of a one-game, winner-take-all format. Not only does this eventually result in the better team winning the series, but it takes out of the equation one of the biggest X factors when it comes to playoff success: fans. Without them, it becomes a whole lot easier for a road team to pull off an upset or two in a series that they weren't supposed to compete in, let alone win games.
Celtics could run into some trouble, perhaps with a taller team like Indiana out there before they get to the Bucks, but certainly an intriguing team and
if he plays really well throughout the playoffs, the Bucks are going to be really hard to beat. I mean, Ryan pretty much took care of everything the Bucks do, but in the Bucks, man, I think Giannis is too good. He's hungry. He's probably going to win another.
The rise of the role player. And maybe one of the biggest factors in games played without fans will be a team's role players. Often we see backups, particularly on the road, succumb to the incessant chants and boos and verbal barrage they get from fans. Fans do it because they know as sure as the sun rises and LeBron James goes deep into the playoffs, those verbal taunts have a way of impacting role players in a negative way. But if they're playing in front of no fans as expected, role players and reserves can simply enter the game and focus on the task at hand without the usual distractions. And the impact this will have on the playoffs is better play from the backups, which could mean the difference between advancing to the NBA Finals and becoming one of the greatest teams ever, or getting bounced in the first round. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of our content in the future. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.